I grew up Catholic, believing in God, and then I went through a phase of being spiritual but not religious. I studied a non-theistic religion, Buddhism, where there is no God, and then more recently got into Hinduism, where God is brought back into the picture. Let's start with a definition of God as the greatest possible being that creates and sustains everything we perceive as a universe. And we can envision this God in form as incarnations like Jesus in Christianity, or Shiva, Vishnu, or Krishna in Hinduism. But if God has a form, it can't be infinite. And even prior to taking on form, God seems to have a disposition to create things the way our universe appears to us with our laws of physics. God seems to have a tendency to create in a very specific way, and not to create everything or anything. So is God really infinite?
Vedanta takes reality even further than God and the universe, beyond a creator God and beyond divine incarnations to a formless reality that isn't manifest at all. There's the concept of Brahman, the vast or ultimate reality. It's said to be a pure or absolute consciousness that has no qualities and yet gives rise to all apparent manifestations. It's a reality even prior to space, time, and causation. But when we conceive of this reality as a God with form and with the potential to manifest this whole universe, it seems to lose that infinite quality.
Describing anything with a specific form or qualities obviously can't be infinite, but we traditionally define God as an infinite being, as ever-present, all-knowing, and all-powerful. With idealist metaphysics, we may describe God as a spatially unbounded field of consciousness, as Bernardo Kastrup describes it. But that means it's unlimited in space and time, or infinite, but not necessarily unlimited in properties. To exist means to have properties. So if God exists, it must have properties. God must at least have a disposition to create everything manifest. And we know the universe has some very regular patterns and consistent properties that we observe as the laws of nature.
I see this ultimately as God's mental archetypes, or predilection to create things in a certain way. Not every possible thing gets created. It's not an infinity of manifestation. Not everything that can possibly exist actually does exist. It's as if the mind of God has certain tendencies. Using Bernardo Kastrup's language, this unbounded field of consciousness has patterns of excitations, or modes of being, and as such isn't really unlimited in its expression. It's unbounded in space and time, but not necessarily devoid of all properties in and of itself. Maybe the unlimited part can be said of its potential to manifest, of its resting state, or pure consciousness. But when things do manifest, they follow specific archetypes, or patterns.
Now, there are debates proving the existence of God, but to me it's very evident. The way I see God is as the greatest possible being, the totality of everything that exists or has the potential to exist. For my ability to perceive, it's evident as the universe at large. I look around in awe at the variety and splendor of what we call the universe, and to me, that's the body of God. Living beings are the eyes and ears of God that allow it to perceive itself. But just as we have private inner lives, maybe the mind of God does too. We can't read other people's minds normally, and we can't know the mind of God as it actually is, at least not ordinarily through our sense perceptions and normal way of thinking. but it's what people want to commune with or to access in as pure a form as possible, and perhaps is what religious and mystical experiences are all about. And thinking and acting in accordance or in alignment with this mind of God is what I call spirituality. In its pure form, God may indeed be infinite and transcend anything we can conceive of. But experientially, I look around at the magnificence of the world and can't deny God's immanence right here and right now. Like and comment if this resonated with you, and subscribe below to follow me on my journey. See you tomorrow.